Hi, this is FUAD Abbasov, a broker with Right at Home Realty, and this is your February edition of Monthly Real Estate Statistics.
February 2025 brought a mix of challenges and opportunities for Toronto's real estate market, reflecting shifting buyer sentiment, changing seller expectations, and ongoing adjustments in both the sales and rental sectors. As we analyze the trends of the past months, it's evident that the market is still seeking equilibrium amid economic uncertainty, fluctuating interest rates, and evolving housing demand. As per Toronto Real Estate Board, housing market continued its adjustment phase in February, with 4,037 home sales recorded across the Greater Toronto Area, 27.4% decline compared to February 2024. The average home price across the GTA in February was $1,084,000, reflecting a 2.2% decrease year over year. While sale remained lower on an annual basis, there was a 4.9% increase from January 2025, signaling a possible increase in market activity as buyers cautiously return. This suggests that while home values are still below their 2024 peaks, the market may be finding a price floor, with modest month-over-month gains. On the supply side, new listings increased by 5.4% increase year over year, with over 12,000 properties hitting the market. This contributed to a more balanced market, shifting slightly in favor of buyers as inventory levels grew. The higher number of listings gave potential home buyers more choices, leading to more cautious and calculated decision-making. Uncertainty is the real enemy of the housing market, and the looming tariff threat is adding another layer of unpredictability. Even though we started seeing some momentum in late 2024 with rate cuts, this new development is making buyers hesitant again. First-time buyers in particular are worried about negative equity, and even move-up buyers are second-guessing their next steps. The combination of a weakening loonie, a sharp drop in Canadian bond yields, and stock market losses is further tightening affordability. If tariffs lead to inflation spikes and job losses, we could see a pullback in buyer confidence, increased mortgage defaults, and further price corrections. Developers are already scaling back, and with condo sales still sluggish, a prolonged period of uncertainty could slow housing starts even further, something Canada desperately needs to address in the long term. While the Bank of Canada might try to counteract with more aggressive rate cuts, and the government could introduce temporary relief measures, those are just short-term band-aids. The hope now is that this tariff situation resolves quickly, because if it drags on, it could disrupt the fragile recovery in the housing market and push Canada closer to a recession. Despite the increase in listings, competition for well-priced homes remained, particularly in sought-after neighborhoods and property types with strong demand. Properties that were priced competitively and offered move-in-ready conditions saw more interest, while homes requiring renovations or priced above market expectations lingered longer. Let's break it down by property type. The average selling price of detached home hovered around $1.4 million, slightly lower than last year, as higher borrowing costs continued to deter some buyers. Prices of semi-detached homes remained relatively stable at $1.1 million, with this segment still experiencing solid demand due to its affordability compared to detached homes. The average price for townhomes was approximately $900,000, with newer units in suburban areas gaining traction among buyers seeking more space. The average condo sale price in the downtown core, for example, was on average $773,000, down almost 1% from last year, with an increase in listings, which was over 27%, and 42% more active condo listings compared to February 2024, buyers had the upper hand in negotiations. While some sellers initially resisted market realities, many ultimately adjusted their prices to attract buyers, leading to more realistic pricing strategies. The data suggests that while home prices are no longer in free fall, they're not rebounding aggressively either, creating a period of relative stability. Let's talk a little bit about Toronto rental market. So the rental market, which experienced rapid rent increases in 2023 and early 2024, showed signs of moderation in February 2025. Condo rental prices dropped 6.5% year over year. The average rent for an unfurnished one-bedroom apartment in Toronto in February was approximately $2,100, representing a year-over-year decline of $168. This marks the first annual drop in rents after years of continuous increases. Townhomes and single-family home rentals saw an almost 9% annual decline. Average rents vary from neighborhood to neighborhood as well as condition of the property offered for rent. Overall, vacancy rates increased slightly, allowing tenants more negotiating power and landlords adjusting their expectations. With rising housing supply and more people choosing to delay home purchases due to interest rates, the rental market is cooling. However, demand remains steady for well-located and well-maintained rental properties, especially in transit-friendly areas. The mood of buyers and sellers in February 2025 reflected a market in transition. Buyers remained cautious but optimistic, sensing an opportunity to negotiate favorable deals. Many were waiting to see if interest rates would decrease further, while others were actively looking for well-priced properties before a potential market rebound. They say fortune favors the bold, and in real estate that couldn't be more true. While everyone is busy panicking over market uncertainty, the smart ones are out there snagging deals left and right. Think about it. Less competition, motivated sellers, and way more room to negotiate. How I look at it, buying a house now is like showing up to an all-you-can-eat buffet, when everyone else is on diet. More for you, less fighting over the good stuff. So while the masses sit on the sidelines waiting for a perfect time that never really exists, you could be locking in a great home at a great price. Moral of the story? Buy when others are scared. Then, when the market picks up again, you can sit back, smile, and say, "Told you so." Sellers, on the other hand, were adjusting to the reality of a more balanced market. Properties that were priced too aggressively struggled to attract offers, leading many sellers to either reduce their asking prices or take their listings off the market to wait for better conditions. The sense of urgency that defined the market in previous years was largely absent, with both buyers and sellers adopting a more strategic and calculated approach. Looking ahead, several factors will influence Toronto's real estate market in the coming months. If the Bank of Canada signals future rate cuts, buyer confidence may improve, leading to an increase in demand. As more homes continue to hit the market, buyers will have more choices, keeping prices in check. Any fluctuations in employment rates, wages, and consumer confidence will impact buying power and housing demand. New government policies related to housing affordability, taxation, and investor activity could shape the direction of both the sales and rental markets. In summary, February 2025 presented a Toronto real estate market marked by decreased sales, a slight dip in average prices, and a cooling rental sector. Buyers and renters now have more options, and sellers and landlords must be more flexible to secure deals. These trends underscore the importance to stay informed and adaptable in a dynamic market environment.
And now, let's take a closer look at detached home sales in Toronto and surrounding areas.
In Toronto, the average sale price of a detached home in February was $1.82 million, 9.35% increase from February of 2024. The amount of sold properties went down by 23%. Amount of new listings went up by 17%. On average, it takes 20 days for a detached home to be sold in Toronto today. In Vaughan, average selling price of a detached home in February was $1.63 million, 10% decrease compared to February of 2024. The amount of properties sold went down by 19.5%. The amount of new listings increased by 10%. On average, Detached home was sold within 19 days in Vaughan in February. Average selling price of detached home in Richmond Hill in February was $1.86 million, 8.4% decrease in price compared to February of last year. Sales were down by 32.5%. The amount of new listings has increased by 18%. On average, it takes 26 days for a detached home to be sold in Richmond Hill today. Average selling price of detached home in Mississauga in February was $1.6 million, 4.69% increase compared to February of last year in price. The amount of sales went down by 22%. New listings, however, increased by 35%. On average, it takes 26 days for a detached home to be sold in Mississauga today. Average selling price of detached home in Markham in February was $1.71 million, 2.2% decrease in price compared to February of last year. The amount of sales was down by 36%. Amount of new listings was up by 24%. On average, it takes 17 days for a detached home to be sold in Markham today. In Newmarket, average selling price of detached home in February was $1.33 million, almost 6% decline in price compared to February of last year. As sales went down by 26.6%. New listings also went down by 11.8%. On average, it takes almost 1 month for a detached home to be sold in Newmarket today. In Aurora, average selling price of detached home was down by 20% compared to February of last year and was sitting at $1.39 million. Sales were down by 66%. New listings were down by 14%. On average, it takes 20 days for a detached home to be sold in Aurora today. Average selling price of detached home in Innisfil in February was $828,000, 2.4% decrease compared to February of last year. Sales were down by 16.6%. New listings were up by 2.3%. On average, it takes 28 days for a detached home to be sold in Innisfil today. Average selling price of detached home in King City in February shows a little bit higher in this report due to one of the most expensive properties sold recently there for over $14 million. Average selling price based on 4 sold properties in King City in February was $3,062,000. On average, it takes 72 days for a detached home to be sold in King City today. In Bradford, average selling price of a detached home in February was $1,050,000, 12.4% decrease compared to February of last year. Sales were down by 44%. New listings were down by 10%. On average, it takes 18 days for a detached home to be sold in Bradford today. In Milton, average selling price of a detached home in February was $1.2 million. Decrease of 14.7% in price compared to February of last year. Sales were down by 69%. Amount of new listings was down by 5%. On average, it took 18 days for a detached home to be sold in Milton. In Stoufville, average selling price of a detached home in February was $1.6 million. 6% decrease in sales price compared to February of last year. Sales were down by 43.7%, new listings were up by 5.5%. On average, it takes almost 3 weeks for a detached home to be sold in Stoufville today. Average selling price of a detached home in Barrie in February was $830,000, 3.4% decrease in price compared to February of last year. Sales were down by 22.4%, new listings went up by 12.5%. On average, it takes 3 weeks for a detached home to be sold in Barrie today. In Oakville, average selling price of a detached home in February was $2,120,000, 3% decrease in price compared to February of last year. Sales were down by 48.6%, new listings were down by 21%. On average, it takes 24 days for a detached home to be sold in Oakville today. As the spring market approaches, all eyes will be on whether demand picks up, especially in response to potential interest rate cuts later in the year. For those looking to buy, sell, or invest, the next few months will be a crucial time to assess the market and make informed decisions. One thing is clear: Those who adapt to the shifting landscape will be best positioned to make the most of it.
If you'd like to receive your own personalized sales report about home sales in your neighborhood, please call me at 647-801-3401 or email me at sold@fuadhomes.com. Thanks for watching and see you next month.